Shining bright, sunshine in the sky. Megan and Tammy here to testify, spreading love, laughter and good vibes too. The Fat Girl Chronicles, we're breaking through. No more.
Hey, it's Tammy
And Megan.
and together we are the
Fat Girl Flippers.
And this is the Fat Girl Chronicles, our podcast.
So if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that little bell so you can be reminded every Friday that our pretty faces are ready to chat. And you can also hear us on any sort of podcast stream, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, whatever. So if you just prefer the audio version, that's totally cool, but you can check us out on there as well. Make sure to follow and subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, and leave us a comment. Let us know where you're from. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Or if you find anything interesting on our podcast, leave us a comment.
Yes. We are both tired today.
Yeah. Sloppy sweats day.
I was like, I'm not sure if this is coming across, but yes, we are very tired today.
And we are, yes.
Yes.
Both in the midst of major changes.
Major changes. Did you want to talk about how your week went first? Like any little details or?
Yes, I missed you.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other in, 2 weeks? That was the chair. Wait, I should just make that clear.
Starting out farting is not the way we want this podcast to begin.
Oh my God, betrayed by the chair.
Sure. Anyway, yeah, I miss Megan. Megan was away, and we haven't been together for, it's 2 weeks, I guess. Yeah, almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, yes, because we would have seen each other not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. And yeah, that's when we recorded our last one, eh? Yeah. And tonight we're doing Fat Girl Flippers. We're doing a live show.
We're doing a live show.
Which should be cool. You went thrifting, didn't you?
I did. After the last live, that following Saturday, I went thrifting. I went a couple different places. Went to Lower Sackville, and went to the Geese Frenchies there, and also to Mission Thrift.
Okay.
Or Bibles for whatever, Mission for Bibles or Bibles for Missions or whatever it's called, but it's across the highway there from.
And did you find anything really interesting? Like, was there something specifically?
No, there wasn't anything spectacular. The best part was that at Mission Thrift they had 75% off all yellow tags. So
I
didn't
love when they do
realize that until I got up to the cash.
Oh shoot!
Because their sign said 25% off, but when she was ringing me in, she said, "Oh, I've been so busy, I haven't been able to make announcements," and so.
That's
anyway,
awesome.
I already had a lot of yellow stuff because...
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it worked out really well. It worked out in our favor.
Yeah, I like that spot. I was talking with someone, and I can't remember who it was or what the context was, but they were saying that they didn't like doing thrifting or go to Frenchies because they didn't have patience to go through the bins. But they don't have bins anymore. So
no,
like
there's no bins. I miss the bins.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have everything hung up, but I miss the days of rifling through the bins. And I think it deterred a lot of people, so there were less people there, so less competition, better things.
True. That's true.
And prices were lower.
Yeah. I mean, really, I guess I shouldn't complain because, like, when we say prices are higher, we're talking like jeans for $8, but that is like it used to be what, $5 or $6?
$4.95 for jeans and stuff, and it used to be like $2 something for t-shirts, and now they're like $4.95 for t-shirts and things.
It's getting super
and I mean,
expensive.
I'm talking Geese Frenchies. We're not talking Value Village. You can't even touch that place. It's just beyond crazy the prices.
Yeah, so for anyone who's not from here, like Geese Frenchies is like a thrift chain, and I think we should clarify too, like when we say thrift, we're not talking like those fancy thrift stores like in LA or whatever, like the ones that are like high-end thrifting, like, whatever. We're just talking like regular, like Goodwill. type of thrift stores, right? So, but yeah, the prices have gone up. And so Guy's Frenchies is around a lot of Nova Scotia, not in Cape Breton though, not in Antigonish, not even in New Glasgow.
They used to be in New Glasgow. They're not.
They have
no
like a
longer
weird
there.
Frenchies.
Oh, they're in
one.
New Glasgow.
It's not Guy's though.
Oh, that's Louis.
There's Louis, but then there's a Frenchies, but it's not.
It's Lee's Frenchies, but it's not the same.
They're like, trying to work their way around it.
Yeah.
But there's some all over the valley, and then there's some in New Brunswick as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if do they go into PEI?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, really?
I think there's one in Charlottetown.
Huh. So it's like a thrifting chain.
Yeah.
And Value Village is international, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they call it Savers in the U.S., but it's the same company.
Same thing. And I find with them, same thing with like, so some of the Salvation Armies are really good, but some of them run like Value Village.
Yeah.
And so you end up, like, they'll individually price things, which
like
is...
our Salvation Army here is really good.
Yeah, but the ones in Dartmouth are horrible.
Yeah. But the only problem is with our Salvation Army here, it's so small that there's very little selection. So.
Mm-hmm. And the one, like, there's tons of selection in Dartmouth, but...
Prices are crazy.
Well, I mean, sometimes you might as well just pay...
Oh, I know. That's how I
new.
feel. The last time I was in Value Village, I was looking at the T-shirts, and some of them were from Walmart, and they wanted $8-9 for a T-shirt from Walmart. You wouldn't even pay $8 or $9 at Walmart for a T-shirt.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely if we're thinking about like looking to flip.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're buying for yourself or whatever. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
what
I
it
mean,
is,
if you're
but...
used to going out and buying high-end brands and paying a lot of money for them, and then, don't mind digging around at the Value Village to see if you're going to find that one piece that you might, get for half of what it would be retail, which is, to me, is insane.
Yeah, but flipping it would be not worth it.
It's not worth it for
I've
us.
also seen like dollar store stuff there. So like I've seen if you
like home decor and stuff, you flip it over and it's got the dollar store tag, and then
it says $4 and they're charging like 10.
Yeah.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
The math is not mathing.
The math is not mathing.
The math is not
we
mathing.
Boycott Value Village.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've been pretty busy with. Oh, that's cool.
I know. It was almost dead. It was in the window. It was so dry.
So she's got a plant. What kind of plant is it?
That is a Thanksgiving cactus.
A Thanksgiving cactus. And is that there's like a new, is that
yes,
like a new
it's
whatever?
got a bunch of little, if you look at the other side, it's got some more on it.
I don't want to like touch it.
See the other one?
I don't want to ruin it. What other
on
one?
that side.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's a new,
it's
what
got
would you
buds.
call it? Buds?
Yeah, the buds are coming out. But it was
cool.
It was almost dead, so I had to soak it in water, and as soon as I soaked it, the buds came out.
It almost looks like one of those mushrooms in a Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminds me of. Like with the red, on top. Yeah. Oh, that's
I'm
really
fascinated with that because it blooms like 3 or 4 times a year, and it loves being in the window and just left alone, and you don't have to do anything to it. And sometimes it'll just get covered in blooms.
Really?
Yeah. And usually 2 to 3 times a year it blooms.
Huh.
And normally they only bloom like once a year, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me. That's my plant.
Yeah. So today, if there's nothing else you wanted to chat about.
No.
So today we decided, I have just got back from a trip. So I figured that Tammy's been wondering about it and how it's been going. We haven't really had a chance to talk about it. I've just been like crazy busy, and so is Tammy. So I just was like, hey, on the podcast, why don't I just share my experience, and then she can hear it for the first time and see what everything is about. So I was doing a training, as you know. So I went to Fredericton, which is like, it's in New Brunswick. Fredericton's in New Brunswick. And it's like an hour away from the Maine border. So Maine, USA. And so originally I was going to go to the conference by myself because, just because that's how it would have worked out. And Richard wanted to go. So we asked his work if he could get some time off or whatever. And he had a couple of vacation days, so that worked out. And so we decided that we would go to the conference. The conference was like we left for Fredericton on a Tuesday and it went till Friday. And so we were thinking that on Friday what we would do, it ended around noon. So we would just drive over the border and spend some time in Maine, like, because it's only a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what the plan was. And then, so Thanksgiving weekend, Richard picked me up on, I think it was Sunday morning. He picked me up on Sunday morning and he was just like joking around and he was just like, you know, and this is usually what happens, but we normally never actually do it. So Richard was like, you know, New York is only a few hours away from Maine. So I'm like, you know what? It is. Like, because this is normally the rabbit hole you go down, right? You go somewhere where you kind of already been, like Maine we've been to multiple times. So we kind of were just like, yeah, we've been there. We're excited about going to get away to the States, do our thing. But yeah, New York's only a couple of hours away. So I started kind of looking into it. And I realized it really is only a couple of hours away. So, well, a little more than a couple hours, but that's besides the point. So then we started to kind of think, oh, maybe we should do New York and just go for the day. Like literally all we would have time for is go for Saturday because we needed to be back. Both of us needed to be back to work for Monday. So it wasn't like we were like extending the trip. We were literally talking about leaving Friday and coming back Sunday. So this is our plan. And we decided we weren't going to tell anybody. Like we were told we weren't going to tell anybody, but we weren't going to even tell our like parents and stuff. We were going to kind of surprise everybody, like, hey, we're in New York, like a big surprise. So Tuesday morning came and Richard's uncle died. So it was sudden. It was a heart attack. He was only in his 60s. And so he passed away. He was found on the kitchen floor. They revived, or the person who found him performed CPR. The ambulance had to use the paddles. And I think there was like a faint heartbeat, like very, very, very faint. So he didn't make it. He either passed on the way there or passed in the hospital. Ironically, Richard's father was also headed to emerge because he had like some sort of strained thing going on with his muscles. So he was going to go get that checked out. And so the hospital very kindly connected the two. And so Richard's uncle passed with Dale is his name. Dale passed with all three of his brothers at the hospital with him. So that was really good. Like, you know, he was surrounded by his family, his brothers. And so at that moment it was kind of just like, you know, Richard's family, there's a long history of people dying in their 50s and 60s of heart attacks. And so like life isn't promised, right? Like tomorrow something could happen. So it was like really like, okay, we are definitely going to New York. And so at that point we did tell people because we were like, you know, then we were like, what happens if something happened on our way or whatever? So we went to Fredericton. We drove up to Fredericton like that afternoon. We're in Fredericton for a couple of days. I did a beautiful training, and you would have liked this guy. His name, I can't remember his name. Evan? I think his name was Evan. And he really talked about addiction, but then he talked about like healing. And one thing that really stuck with me is like spirits, your spirituality, right? So like how wonderful it is for our spirit to experience the physical world. We were spirits before this, we're spirits after this. This is what he was teaching. So, you know, that's kind of just is what it is. But the blessing is that we are able to experience the physical world and to be grateful of, if it's raining, my body can experience rain. My body can experience touching this table, to connecting to people. So it was powerful. A lot of his talks were about connecting with the spiritual world, which was great for me because we literally just lost a family member. So it was like really good for me. Fredericton was fun. And then Friday came. So we booked an Airbnb in Connecticut. That's where we stayed. So just to put this in perspective, Fredericton to Connecticut, we left at 10:30ish in the morning, and we did not arrive to our to our hotel in Connecticut until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So that's a long drive. We stopped in Rhode Island. So we went to Olive Garden in New Hampshire. And Tammy knows I love Olive Garden. Anybody who knows me knows I'm like friggin' obsessed with Olive Garden. I love their breadsticks.
Olive Garden and Disney.
Olive Garden and Disney is like all it takes. So Richard drove, and I did like schoolwork and work. And then we went to Olive Garden. And of course, in Rhode Island, we stopped and we went to Walmart. It seemed a little sketchy. Never been to Rhode Island. Rhode Island was nice, but it just seemed a little sketchy. I mean, it was also like at that point 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It was dark. We've never been. The furthest I've been driving wise is Boston, so this is like pretty new. And then we went to Connecticut, and the place we stayed at was so sketch.
Really?
Oh, so sketchy. So of course Megan over here, like I'm not no rich thing. Like I'm looking for. I know that we're only going to lay our heads on the bed for hours before we get up to go to New York, right? So Megan went cheapy, and Megan found the only hotel where the reviews didn't mention roaches, because most hotels mentioned roaches. So I found out that this hotel is owned by an older couple, and they basically just run it. So there was garbage in the garbage can when we arrived in our room, like not cleaned from the previous people. Richard took a shower and it instantly clogged, so I couldn't even take a shower. And the blankets, it was like a thin sheet and then this like blue microfiber cloth blanket, and then a duvet cover. Not the duvet, but a duvet cover. That's the blankets they put on top. And the drawers wouldn't close properly, so they would be like... the drawers were like lopsided and like sliding out.
Sounds classy.
Everything was unplugged. We went to put stuff in the fridge and we're like, I don't think the fridge is working. No, it's just unplugged. Everything was unplugged.
Conservative power.
The hallways had like there wasn't like lights. It was all like lamps and big floral couches.
Oh boy.
And a clicker that was like the size of a tablet.
A remote, you mean? Like for the TV?
Yeah, remote, yeah. It was too much. So we went there. We got there like 9:30, 10. No elevators. We had to lug my like 500-pound suitcase up the stairs, which was great. And so we woke up around 6 o'clock the next morning, and Connecticut, where we were staying in Connecticut, it was about 2.5 hours from New York, New York City. So we drove the 2.5 hours. We did not arrive in New York City until like 11 because we got lost. We ended up in the Bronx, actually. So we got lost in the Bronx. And we ended up getting lost. So we left the Bronx, and then we somehow got lost again. And ended up going over the Brooklyn Bridge, which is kind of iconic. So that was weird, like how we ended up doing that. So with New York, and this is the thing that I wanted to talk to you about. I think I can relate a little bit to how you felt when you went to Belize. I kid you not.
Why?
it was like I lived there in a past life. It was the most surreal, like I could almost get emotional thinking about it. It was like home. It was like I've never, even Disney, I've never experienced that. It was like we parked for Rhode Island, or so not Rhode Island, we parked at Staten Island, and like we got on the ferry, and Richard, not that Richard didn't like New York, but he was very, very, very anxious. Mm-hmm. And I'm an anxious person, and it's like a new spot for me. It's not like New York is safe. It's just, there is a different culture from Canada to US, right? Mm-hmm. So you're thinking about things like that. And it was like, Richard was like, are you sure this is the ferry? Like, is this going to get us to New York City? Like, he's like all panicked. I'm like, I'm just like completely calm. It's just as if we're taking the Halifax ferry over to Halifax. Like it's as if there's not a worry in my bone. We get out of the terminal into New York City, and I'm like, let's do subway. What? We've never been here before, and we're going to hop on a subway like we know what we're doing. Yeah, let's get on the subway. So we walked down, we did the subway, we had the card, we paid like our tapped little card machine, just like the movies. Hopped on a subway, went down right into Times Square. Richard was like freaking out because it does look like what you see. Like have you been to New York? Yeah, so it is exactly like billboards and people and those characters, and it was everybody, and it was like Richard, at one point I was walking toward the M&M store because that's where our big bus hop on hop off was. Mm-hmm. And Richard was like, well, how do you know where we're going? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm walking. Like, it was so weird. It just felt like home. And I know as soon as I said that, because Emma asked me, how was it? And I was like, if there is such a thing as past lives, I 1,000% was in New York in a past life. 1,000%. Like, it's almost painful to watch TikToks and stuff in New York now. Because I just yearn to go back. Like, I'm yearning to go back.
I get that.
Is that how you felt? Like, when you first, went on to Belize soil?
Yes. But it wasn't. I mean, when I first entered Belize, there wasn't really much at the border. And you enter through the free zone. And I remember walking across the bridge, and the smell was different. I walked across the bridge and I could smell flowers. Like, it just smelled like, I don't know what flowers or where, but it was just this smell. It was like you were walking into a different world. And I will never forget that first time crossing that bridge, getting my passport stamped from the Mexican side, and literally walking across the bridge, and it smelled different, and I'm in a different country. And I immediately felt like, wow, this is for me,
Yeah, like you're almost at peace or something.
And it was weird because they speak Creole, which it's like a pidgin English. It's similar to patois in, I was going to say Japan, in Jamaica. And it was very funny because I immediately understood what they were saying. And most people don't. Yeah.
That is so wild.
Yeah.
There must be something to past lives.
I'm sure I was a black woman in a past life, and I lived in the Caribbean. I know it. Because there's just something when you go to the Caribbean, the music, the culture, the food, everything. It's just it's home. It's home.
Yeah, that's the best way I can explain New York. It was as if it just floored me because
I'd been a lot of places before I'd been to Belize.
Yeah.
So I'd done quite a bit of traveling before I'd been to Belize, and I'd been a lot of places in the U.S. and things like that, and nothing affected me like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've not been as many places, but I've been to, a couple of provinces, been to a few provinces, been to a few states. I mean, I absolutely love Disney World, and I absolutely love Orlando. like to Orlando, Florida, like, but this just felt different. This really just, it was like this calmness, and it just felt so me. And then I was like thinking, well, New York kind of is me in a way. Like when we were in New York, it was like there's such a me, like a mix of, you know, money and no money and hopes and dreams, but also despair and, you know, being let down. And like New York is so contradictory in so many ways. And I feel like that sometimes, like that I've got so much in my own mentality. I've got so many things like going around within me that it just like there was this instant connection. Like I could totally relate to like being super hopeful and positive and optimistic and dreaming and believing the world is this good place, but then there's also a part of me that's like hopeless and, you know, doesn't believe that dreams happen and believes that, you know, despair is among us or whatever. Like there's a lot of mixture within me, and I don't know, like there was such a connection with me in New York.
And it's funny because New York is one of the places where the immigrants arrived when they first came to, you know, the U.S. A lot of people arrived through New York, hence the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
So it was a place of hopes and dreams for a lot of people. So I think there's a lot of energy there too.
So much energy.
Of the people that have passed through, and because a lot of people have, you know, come with nothing and made something of themselves. Mm-hmm. It's a city of dreams.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was amazing. It was way bigger than we could have even dreamed of. So we did the hop on, hop off. Mm-hmm. And for anyone looking to kind of experience, I mean, they do them in multiple types of cities. Like you can do them in a lot of major cities. I would recommend it. We got to see a lot of the sites. We didn't get to go to Central Park. We didn't have time to do Central Park. I really wanted to do Central Park, but I'll go back. I'll be back. We saw the towers, the memorial.
Mm-hmm. The memorial.
Yep. So that was really impactful. And you know what? I liked how they, even so many years later, they take it very seriously. Mm-hmm. We were overlooking one of the sites, and I don't know what they call them. Not baths. Like the memorial. They have like the fountains. Yeah. But around them are like, it's just like all plaque of the names of the people who were lost or who passed. And there was a couple beside us, and she was overlooking, and she was grabbing or something or whatever. She moved around or something, and she had her bag. She placed her bag on the plaque part, and the security guard actually came up and said, "Can you please remove that bag?" Because it's disrespectful, right?
Yeah, it's like putting something on somebody's grave. Yeah.
So, but after all these years, like it's still so well maintained. Mm-hmm. The security guards take it very seriously. Like they don't want you putting anything on the plaque. You know, we didn't go into the museum, but they've got a beautiful museum there, a nice big museum. Yeah, it was in. The energy there was so different. Like it's hard to think about because like I can remember like being in, I think it was like grade 5 or 6. I remember
exactly where I was sitting. I was
in school,
sitting at my desk at work, and my son was in daycare. And I remember thinking, all I wanted to do was leave work and go grab him.
Yeah, so scary. Mm-hmm. So scary. Mm-hmm. It was and so one of the like the fountain parts, one of the sites wasn't working and one of them was, so we were able to see like the water running in and stuff, and it was beautiful. We attempted to go get New York pizza, but Joe's Pizza, which is the one that everyone always talks about, the line was crazy and we were so hungry and tired, so we went to Shake Shack and that was pretty good. You would have liked their chicken, like, it's like popcorn chicken, but it's like real chicken. Oh, okay. It's real chicken. It's not like KFC chicken. Yeah, so you would have probably liked that. What else did we do? So I would recommend the hop on, hop off. However, it's not very size friendly. So to get up on the hop on, hop off, because usually when you do that, you want on the top level, like a double decker or whatever. But the stairs are fairly
Very
narrow and steep. So I would say almost anyone bigger than me or anyone who has really, like I have bad knees, but if you have any worse knees than I do, then it would be a real challenge to get on top. But there is a bottom, so like, you know, and that you can see through the windows. It's just...
Was it wheelchair accessible?
Yes. But I didn't see them put anyone in... Listen, okay, this is the thing. I'm so hesitant to say things are accessible until I physically see them being accessible. Yes, there's an opportunity. The bus goes down. There's a ramp. You can wheel in. They've got chairs that go up that you can wheel your chair in. Absolutely. But I feel like I'd want to see it happen before I claim anything. Because I feel like people claim things that are accessible when they're not.
Oh, 100%.
It's like, this happens all the effing time.
100%.
Yeah. So,
just like that lovely ramp at that convenience store.
And I didn't... Okay, so I sent a picture. This was in Fredericton. We were driving down the road, and Richard's like, what the F is that? And I looked over. I don't even know how to describe the ramp to everyone here.
It was so short and so steep. It was like somebody took a set of stairs and made it into a ramp. Like a set of steps going into your house.
It was so bad. It was
really
so
short and
bad.
steep.
And there was like a bunch of garbage cans and stuff at the bottom of it. Like you wouldn't have even...
And then the landing at the top was not big enough to like turn your wheelchair so that you could go in the door. And then there was a big like threshold.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have got if you were in a wheelchair, there was no point there. You couldn't get in the building because there was a threshold under the door of like probably 4 to 6 inches. So
it made no sense.
I'm not sure what the purpose of the ramp was for.
It clearly wasn't for the right reasons because it made no sense.
It must have been for like bringing in stock or something. It definitely wasn't for, you know, like somebody with a dolly bringing in stock. That's the only thing I could figure.
It has to be.
Because it was not. No.
It was awful.
Definitely not.
So I would say for the hop on, hop off, like it's a great experience. I would 1,000% recommend it. However, I wouldn't say it's like overly size inclusive. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't claim it that way.
Small?
I mean, Richard and I fit in, like, they're 2x2. Like, Richard and I fit in them, but we weren't, like, overly comfortable. Like, we were like an airplane, like, squished kind of together. So I would not claim it to be super size inclusive. So, take with that what you will. We also did this. So we did this thing. This thing I would 1,000% recommend. So in this particular, in New York, it's like the New York Pass, but they've got tons of those things. I think we're doing one when we go to LA too. Like, it's basically like you buy this pass, and through this pass you can get a certain amount of attractions. So we bought a pass for 3 attractions. We ended up doing 2, which was the hop on, hop off, and we did the Edge. And so we didn't do the third. We didn't have time to do a third one. So I would recommend that because it's cheaper, especially like because you can also get them. So for an unlimited pass for one day, it was like $150 per person. Well, the hop on, hop off is like $80. And then, so like, it's worth it because then, like, the Edge, the one that we went on, that alone was like another $50 or $60 each. So, like, 1 or 2 attractions makes it worth it. We did the 3 attractions because it was a bit cheaper, and we didn't think we'd be able to do unlimited, and we weren't even able to do 3. So now, mind you, we were quite late coming into the city. We might have been able to do something. We didn't get lost. But we went to the Edge. So the Edge is 100 stories up, 100 floors up. And you overlooked New York City. And that was really, really, really cool. Anybody who watches Netflix, what's his name? there's a reality show on there, and I originally watched him on Bravo. Sergant. Anyway, he's a New Yorker. He does real estate. The show is about the real estate, selling New York or something like that. And he fired a guy at the edge. So it was cool to be able to like go to the edge and be like, this is where this guy got fired.
It's fun when you go to cities like that are iconic, that you see all the time on TV and things, and then you can go places where I found LA was like that, like going to LA where there were a lot of things that I had already seen on TV.
Yeah. And New York, like, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, but Times Square and stuff is unreal. Mm-hmm. The traffic, unreal. Unreal. But yeah, I felt like I was at home. The other tip, if anyone's heading to New York, is the Staten Island ferry, like, gets pretty close to the Statue of Liberty. So, like, if you're not somebody who's wanting to, like, do that special tour and go right up close to it and explore the museum and stuff, the Staten Island ferry is free. Like, it's completely free. So, and you saw some of the photos. Like, you get pretty close to the Statue of Liberty, and you know, you don't have to pay the $50 or $60 it is to do the special tour. So that was worth it for us. That's good. And honestly, I think we spent less money doing this trip than we would have stayed in Maine, because when we stay in Maine, we kind of already familiar with Maine, and we would just shop. Like, that's all we would do. We would just go in
to the outlet stores and stuff.
Yeah, and with the dollar the way it is, we barely spent anything because we didn't have time to shop. Mm-hmm. We were driving like half the time. And gas is so much cheaper.
Really?
Oh. So to fill Richard's car here is about $80. Mm-hmm. To fill his car there with the exchange rate, keep in mind with the exchange rate, it was like $45 to $50.
Wow. Like
a lot cheaper. And you got more kilometers. He got like 800 something kilometers on one tank of gas in the States, where you'd only get like between 650 and 700 here.
I wonder why.
So I don't know if it's better gas or what, but it's certainly cheaper.
Higher octane.
Yeah. So it was really, it was such a good trip, and I really enjoyed it.
So not only do we have expensive gas, we have watered down gas.
We're just in a bad situation. Did you see that they announced they're going to lower the tax by 1%?
What tax?
We're going to go from 15% in Nova Scotia to 14%.
Oh my God, let me break out my party hat.
You know damn well he's planning an election right now. That's the only reason why he brought it down 1%, and that's bullshit. 1%?
1%? Shove that up your
1%.
wazoo.
15 to 14?
That's like, you wouldn't even notice it. It's literally pennies.
Like I'm glad it's going down, but come on, 1?
Couldn't you have done 2 or 3 or 5?
I mean, that's a lot. Like 15% is a lot.
Don't we have the highest tax?
Probably.
I think we do.
Nova Scotia, man.
Nova Scotia and New Brunswick.
That's why I'm leaving for New York.
Yeah.
The land of dreams and not 15% tax.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a really, really good trip.
Nova Scotia used to be the land of dreams too. Now it's the land of
despair.
Derelicts and despair. It is. It's depressing. You drive around town and all you see is homeless people, homeless shelters, drug addicts. It's awful.
People are really struggling right now.
I know. Everywhere. And it's so depressing. Like, really depressing. Mm-hmm. I don't like to see that. And, I mean, growing up in this town, I never really was a big fan of this town, but it always was a nice little town, like, had that small town feel. It's probably part of the reason why I didn't like it, but, because of the small town mentality. But now, it's just like, it's like they wiped out everyone that was here and filled it up with all new people. It's so different. Like, I don't know. Just the whole vibe is different when you go out around.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think people are just like really struggling.
yeah.
Right? People are really struggling.
Yeah.
Times are hard.
Did you see the people that are living out on the marsh there by the?
Frenchies?
Yeah.
No, I've heard
There's a
about
whole
it, but
community.
yeah, I've heard. But
And it's so sad.
there's a lot that needs to be done and changed, and I'm sure people like can feel that, not just in Nova Scotia, but everywhere, right? Like,
Of course,
I'm sure.
I see it. I watch a lot of YouTube all over the world, and it seems that is not just us.
Yeah,
It's
people are
happening
struggling.
all over the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But you know what? I'm gonna hold hope that there's some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Like that, I hope that we can turn it around.
Think that there better be a big damn light, if there's going to be a light, because
A big damn light.
well, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong
Oh, yeah.
and have not been reversed since, I would say, COVID was the big turning point.
That was a huge factor.
Yeah, I think people's lives changed then. People get used to being at home, working from home, just life changed in general. And then we lost our social aspect of everything, and
Yeah.
it never went back to that. So
Yeah.
it's just, I find it depressing to go out and look around and see nothing but despair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the prices of rent in our town have gone from, we used to be one of the cheapest places in probably in Canada to come and live, was here in rural Nova Scotia, and now our rents are higher than the cities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our rents are, would be in line with somewhere, like we have probably higher rents than Toronto or places like that, or Vancouver, and it's crazy. So.
It's funny, I was at the end of the day in New York, because we stayed in Connecticut both nights. So after we left New York, we still had to make that 2.5 hour drive back to the hotel. And
Same hotel?
same hotel. God.
That's funny.
But we didn't get back until like 10. No, I think it was almost midnight because we got lost again. We ended up in New Jersey, which New Jersey, if anyone is listening from New Jersey, y'all need to cut it with the friggin' tolls. There were so many tolls.
New Jersey's where my favorite YouTubers live.
Oh, well, they've got a lot of tolls. You can tell them that.
They live in Summers Point, which is close to Atlantic City.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got back to the hotel, but going from New York, like in Times Square, to back to the ferry terminal to go, then take the boat to Staten Island. We had a lovely Lyft driver, so we ordered a Lyft, and he was really cool. He was from somewhere in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember exactly where. Had been living in the country for like 20 plus years. Really hard worker, like loves America, but wants to go home to his family and misses his family and has big family, siblings, like a lot of siblings and stuff. And so we were talking about rent and things like that. And so he's like, yeah, like some of these, bachelors are going for like $3,000 a month or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much. I can't believe that. Like, who's got $3,000 to spend on an apartment in a month? And he goes, 3,000? You think that's a lot? And I was like, yeah, that's so much. And there's some places here that are like $60,000 a month. Like, he said, there is so much money in New York. Like, there's people who have so much money that are able to spend $60,000 for 1 month. And I shouldn't be surprised at that, because on this realtor show that I've watched lots of realtor shows, like a lot of those. And when they do leases and stuff, they say, things are like 50, 60, 70, $100,000 a month and stuff. But to hear someone like just not on a TV show say that that's what some of these places go for, like in Soho and stuff, I couldn't fathom it. And then he really was like, and I imagine that there's some truth to this, because I imagine that he's picked up people with money before, being a Lyft driver in New York. Mm-hmm. He's like, people think that money brings happiness. And he said, and sure, yeah, it can bring convenience and it can bring you opportunities or whatever, but it doesn't always bring happiness. And sometimes, like, you're better off not even having the money in the first place, And so I imagine he's heard so many stories or encountered so many people that were very, very wealthy and miserable, or horrible people, or, it was an interesting perspective. And he's just like, he was just so grateful for, like, his life, and, like, grateful for the money that he had, and yeah, he was so cool. I liked him. I did. We chatted a lot on our drive, and he was like showing us, this is where this is, where that is, and
well, that's nice that you got somebody that
he was so nice. And even at the end, he was like, because what they do around the ferry terminal is they want tourists, they try to say that the ferry costs money. Mm-hmm. So he's like, there's a lot of scammers out there. So he said, and don't let any of those people take advantage of you. Like the ferry's free. So, like, don't say otherwise. And as soon as we got out of the van, this guy came up and he's like, what did he say? He's like, oh, are you looking to see the Statue of Liberty or whatever? Mm-hmm. And then when we didn't really respond, he goes, are you looking to see the Statue of Liberty, or are you going home? And I'm like, we're going home. He goes, oh, okay. Because he thought, if I said I want to see the Statue of Liberty, he probably thought, oh,
I'll sell her something.
I'll sell her a ticket to the free ferry. And they had like a buskers, like not a buskers thing, but like a street performer in the ferry terminal. Mm. We were just sitting and, like, talking, and then all of a sudden the music came on, and yeah, there was dancers.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was really cool too. But yeah, the Lyft driver was interesting. I feel like he's probably seen things, but I could not imagine spending $60,000 a month. I don't even know what $60,000 looks like or feels like.
No.
Like, I don't think I'll ever have that in my lifetime. Like that, like to have that, like I'm not talking like what your annual salary is. I'm like talking like, I don't think I'd ever be able to see what $60,000 looks like in a bank account. Like, that's wild to me.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't always mean happiness. And then it just got me thinking, like, yeah, you're right. Because sometimes, with money can also come things, like, that aren't so great. And I was overhearing, I didn't know in Canada that you have to, like, if you win a lottery prize, you have to get your picture taken. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. In the States, it's different. Mm-hmm. I feel like I wouldn't want that, because I feel like people would be after me for money. I feel like if you won multiple millions of dollars.
Everybody, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But I think that happens anyways, whether your picture is taken or not.
Because people know.
People know. I mean,
the word gets out.
Yeah.
People know you be rich. Yeah. We'll be coming to you saying, you want to buy our Fat Girl Flipper clothes? We got lots to sell you.
Yeah, with your $60,000. Definitely will wipe out our stock.
Oh my god. The roadways were cool. What else? We didn't get home till Sunday night, so we drove from Connecticut to Great Village on Sunday. Oh, and we were like, it's an extra 45 minutes to go to Salem, to pass through Salem, without realizing it was October. That was a horrid mistake.
Yeah, because it's really busy.
Oh, it was. We're like, I'm sure there's a plaque or something. Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest days that.
Well, there's a festival and stuff going on. So we just drove through it. Like, I'd like to actually go back and learn about the trials and, like, actually see the sites, but ain't no way we were stopping. We went to Olive Garden in Massachusetts that time. I didn't tell you about this.
What?
So we're innocently sitting in Olive Garden. And at Olive Garden, they've got these tablets so you can order your food, but you can also like play games and stuff.
Yes.
So we decided to play a trivia game. I'm so insulted by this. So to play this trivia game, you have to have a username. And so this little friggin' trivia game generates a random username for you. Mm-hmm. You know what it called me?
What?
A messy whale.
That's funny.
I was like, I feel personally attacked.
A messy whale.
Because that's what I felt like in that moment. After driving so many bloody hours.
The tablet could see you.
Oh my God. Messy whale.
So who won the trivia?
Not Richard or I. Every time we played it, it would get worse and worse and worse. The first time we played it, we got like 70%. And by the time we finished, I think we were only getting like 30% of the questions right. We had breadsticks and pasta and...
I was going to ask what you ate, but I already know. You ate spaghetti with cheese and pasta sauce on the side.
Yeah, and the breadsticks.
And breadsticks.
I do love and they never give you butter. You have to ask for the butter.
She sent me a picture of herself eating the breadsticks.
I did. I did.
I think she figured I would appreciate that. I know how good those breadsticks are.
And the hotel in Fredericton was also not as sketchy as the one in Connecticut, but it was also sketchy.
Where did you stay in Fredericton?
The Fredericton Inn. Mm-hmm. That was also, although we got a renovated room, and there was some, and I'm putting that in quotes for people who can't see me. But there were some people who did not get a renovated room, and like the floors were like brown carpet. Mm-hmm. It was gross. Mm-hmm. Like it was really gross.
Oh, I know. That place has been used for a lot of conventions.
Yeah. And it was funny because when we arrived, I saw a supervisor that, with the company or with the organization, she was like running down the hall. And so we stopped the elevator and she was like in a mood. She's clearly in a mood. And so we got off the elevator and she was like she was short in her words. She was just kind of like panicked about getting to her room or whatever. And I said, "Oh, so-and-so, this is Richard. Richard, this is so-and-so." And she whips her head around and she says, "Sorry, I'm not usually this much of a bitch." She whips her head back around. Richard thought she was the most hilarious thing. Oh my God. It was funny. But yeah, no, it was a really good trip. I'm happy that I went. I can hardly wait to go back. I would recommend New York to anybody. And I just recommend like Tomorrow's Not Promised. And people are really struggling right now. And life does feel really dull, especially going into winter. Mm. The air, like everything seems grayer. And that I love the first start of fall. And then as it gets closer to winter, it just seems grayer. And so with that in mind, like, I mean, not everyone can be, I'm very privileged and lucky to be able to have done what I did. But, you know, if there's things that you can do that you're just kind of holding back on because of anxiety or fear or worry or you feel like it's totally out of the realm of things you can't do or something, like, I'd encourage people to just try to live. Like, that is one thing, like, one of the main reasons I went, and I told Tammy this, was that, like, I've learned from her. Like, Tammy has lived a life of travel, has lived a life of adventure, has been on adventures, has done things, has, you know, like, right? Like, you can think back and think, oh my gosh, I saw this, or mm-hmm. I did this. And I want that. Like, I want to be able to do that. And so that's why I did it. So she was definitely like an inspiration for that. And I would encourage others to do that as well. Like, go for the experience that you want, right? Mm-hmm. And do it while you can, right? Because I don't know, like Richard, all of his family, they have passed really early. And of course, there's factors into that I don't think Richard needs to worry about because he's not, you know, doing certain things. But tomorrow's not promised, so live every day like you can, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with that, another episode done. We really need to get Tara on here to talk about dating.
We do.
We need some, like, funny dating stories.
Besides the CPAP machine?
Besides CPAP guy. All right, we'll have a good week, everybody. And we'll see you next Friday. Mwah.
Hiding, no more feeling small. We're taking up space, standing proud and tall. Our voice is strong, our stories to be heard. Challenging the stereotypes, flipping the world, the chronicle.